Making your way through work Monday takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our streets where everybody knows your game, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome into another edition of the Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. I am Rob, and I'm here with Mudcat, Cody, and Alex. How you boys doing tonight?
Not too shabby.
Good, my man.
Dude, every time I see the Norton
I love it too.
clip,
I was thinking the same thing, man. Same exact thing.
I was trying to hold back the laughs. It gives me a little chuckle every time I see it. But we got an exciting episode tonight. We're talking the final rankings of the Dad Bod wide receiver group. We're going to get into all three of our top 12s. We're going to kind of just have some back and forth, some cool questions that, a little bit, not the typical questions. We're going to get into some other sort of things. And we got some news, and we're going to talk a massive dynasty trade that went down in one of our leagues.
League of Record.
The League of Record. What was it, yesterday or 2 days ago?
Maybe 2 days ago, but it's still hot on everybody's mind.
And we are not in it.
Stars moving.
Yeah, we are not in it, but Mario is the mastermind behind this thing. Of course, every time you see a trade, you'll see it. But when you see this trade, it's a typical Mario move. But let's start it off with some news today, boys. A lot of moving pieces. Obviously, it was cut day. Nothing too surprising with that, but obviously the big news is Jonathan Taylor not traded, and now he is starting on the PUP list for the season. Not great, but Cody, what's your initial thoughts, and what do you think is going to happen with this?
Hurts a lot, man. It really hurts a lot. Ultimately, I think he probably still gets traded. And I think he's going to bring a ton of value later in the season still, because I think whoever does ultimately land him, it's going to be probably a better offense than the Colts. But for dynasty owners specifically, or anybody that's already drafted and redrafted, this is a killer. I mean, you're missing him for the first month of the year at a minimum. It's just, I know we've talked a little bit. A few weeks ago, I traded Josh Jacobs for him straight up when there were sort of question marks about both of those players. And at this moment, I'm not feeling that great about my end of it. At least it's in dynasty. So, I still have some hope, because I think ultimately if he ends up with someone like, the Vikings, I know it hurts Madison, or specifically the Dolphins, I think the back half of the season could be fabulous for dynasty owners. But it hurts today, man. It hurts today.
Yeah. Alex, let me ask you this while we're on this topic. Redraft purposes, right? A lot of drafts have already taken place. He was probably taken third, fourth round in that area. Is he someone that you would try to go trade for right now? So, do you think you can push some buttons and try to, throw a David Montgomery and somebody else for him?
I wouldn't do it. I realistically think if he gets traded, it's going to be right around the deadline. And I think he's going to have his goal is he's going to try to sit the first half of the season. If they don't trade him, the Colts are asking way too much. So he's going to wait, and they're either going to trade him right before the deadline, or he's going to play the last 8 games to count towards his contract so he can get a new contract next year. I don't like it.
Yeah, but do you think 8 games of Jonathan Taylor for that playoff push, or you think that's enough to go, or would you wait?
I would wait to kind of get a better idea. I mean, the longer you wait, the cheaper you're going to get him for. If you try to get him now, you're thinking, the guy who has him thinks 4 games. That's what he's telling the people he's trading with. It's only 4 games.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's a yes. I mean, for me, it's kind of like a yes and no thing. For me, I don't think he's going to play I don't think he's playing for the Colts again. That's kind of my opinion on the whole situation. Like, I don't see
I
that
think he
happening,
gets traded at the deadline.
which is October 31st, I believe.
It's rough. Yeah.
So
I wouldn't mess with it. It's too risky unless your team's 5-0 to start out the season. Then I would think about it. But if I wouldn't,
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
risking the biscuit, you know,
It's
for
a
huge
balancing act. It's a balancing act, right? Like, maybe not this week, you know, maybe not the first couple weeks of the season, but the closer you get to that point where he's going to have to play, or getting right to the trade deadline where he can get traded and moved, like, the closer you get to that point, the less likely I feel like that manager is going to be to trade him, because he's like, well, I already waited a month. What's 2 more weeks? Like, I might as well just sit on it and see what happens. So it's a balancing act, but it's somebody that I'm
need to
like,
win then, and I mean, it's just not going to be ideal for anybody.
That's your best case scenario, is that owner has started out 1-3, 2-4. That's
and
the
needs a
buying
running back.
opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. It's something to monitor, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it a lot. But speaking of Jonathan Taylor and all this news coming out, Packers were the surprise team that was in on JT. Cody, any like initial thoughts on this? Because obviously it's kind of surprising with Aaron Jones there and AJ Dillon.
Yeah. You know, somewhat surprising and somewhat not. Here's where I can see why it might make sense for the Packers. Aaron Jones is under contract for this year and the next season, but next year is not guaranteed. Really, this is the only year left guaranteed on Aaron Jones' contract. And AJ Dillon's in the last year of his rookie deal. And so, you know, I think if you're the Packers, you got to look at this and say, hey, we're either going to owe Aaron Jones an extension as a 29-year-old, or we're going to have to re-sign AJ Dillon, who honestly hasn't been amazing. He's been fine, but he hasn't been amazing. And so you see this opportunity to sort of restart at the position. And I think that makes some sense. For this year, it doesn't make sense because your running back room is just loaded. For 2024, kind of planning ahead for the next generation of that position on their team, I can see what they were thinking.
Yeah. I keep harping on this, but I'll throw this to you, Alex, with like Dynasty. Does this make you, like, if you have AJ Dillon, like, what does this do for you? Like, are you, because I have AJ Dillon in a couple leagues, I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Do they not like him? Are they going to move off of him? What's that going to do? Or is it just like they had a chance to go get a top 5 back in the league?
Yeah.
They're taking a swing for, like, you'd be stupid not to try to get him, right?
It's like the CMC thing. You know, San Francisco was doing fine with their running backs. It wasn't like they were stinking it up. It was just, hey, we know we have the O-line, and if we do get a premier running back, we have to utilize it and take advantage of it. With the Packers, you know, it's going to be Jordan Love's first year. The receiving crew's very young. AJ Dillon is okay as a power back, but he's not a starting running back, and they're not going to re-sign him. You know, there's no way.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It makes complete sense.
Re-sign who, did you say?
AJ Dillon.
You don't think they're re-signing AJ Dillon?
No.
Even if they
Unless
are,
they
I think this says they don't see him as a 3-down back for them.
Like,
No,
that's kind of that's my thing, right? Like, a lot of,
But we
me,
know
I took him. I don't know, man. I took AJ Dillon this year, you know, later, because you can get him at a steal, 7th, 8th round, with the hopes that Aaron Jones would move on after this year. They would sign AJ Dillon and let AJ Dillon have this backfield. Like, that was my hope. Mm-hmm. Now with this news, it's kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're thinking. And maybe it is just like they view him as a 2-down back, maybe in between the 20s kind of back, which isn't great for fantasy.
No.
So
yeah, I'm not super high on AJ Dillon. I think he's okay.
Yeah, which me too, but it was also like taking a swing for hopefully he gets this backfield. Now
it kills the upside that was in the back of your mind to some degree.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
that little bit of upside where if Aaron Jones is gone, it's AJ Dillon's backfield, but now it's kind of looking like it's not. So sucks for my shares of AJ Dillon. And now JSN is back at practice. There were talks that he might start on the PUP. It was, I want to say, a broken wrist or a broken bone in the wrist. But he's back. He's catching passes. Looks like he's going to play week 1, maybe. Cody, any Any reservations with JSN with this wrist?
No reservations specific to the
ankle?
injury. Yeah, well,
Did I say
I don't
ankle?
even
I
know what
meant
you said.
wrist.
No,
I'm
you
not
said
even sure, actually.
I think you said wrist.
Okay.
Yeah, any reservations aren't specific to the injury. You know, I think JSN's super promising. All the hype's been really great from early in camp that he looks so special in those things. The reality to some degree is this is a loaded wide receiver core who also has 2 running backs that they're going to showcase. And I think it's probably not one of those rookie seasons where, you know, he pulls hey, this guy's a superstar all of a sudden. I think this is probably a guy we're going to ramp up with. I think he ultimately could be a star. I believe in JSN. It's just a really crowded room. And so that's really my core reservation. The injury doesn't scare me.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Like wide receivers, rookie wide receivers, especially, you always hear like you're drafting them for the talent, not the landing spot, right? Like no matter what, cream of the crop it's gonna rise to the top if you are that good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
If he's that good, hopefully we see it.
If he's that good, like he's gonna bypass DK and he's gonna bypass Lockett.
No way in hell this year.
I'm just saying, like, if he is that, if it's a premier talent, is what I'm trying to say. Like, if it's Justin Jefferson coming in, you know, when he was drafted 22nd overall, no one expected him to be Justin Jefferson, what he is now. And he came into a situation where it was Adam Thielen was actually a really good wide receiver in the league, and people were saying they didn't love that fit with Kirk Cousins and the weapons.
But he was already slowing down a little bit, getting a little. It was 29, I think, when he came in. Right, but Lockett still at 29 is probably a top 15 receiver speed-wise.
Yeah, speed.
Thielen was running Thielen ran a 4.6, so it's closer to, you know, JSN's 40 time. I like JSN. It's just unless an injury happens, I won't redraft. I'm not rostering him.
He's somebody I'm very interested to see what happens this year.
For sure. He's talented. Just Seahawks are loaded.
That's the thing, right? It's like it's a really interesting like case study to just see how it plays itself out.
Yeah.
I sort of anticipate, you know, we kind of get sucked into this Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson thing, but it doesn't have to be the only path to really nice
Chris
fantasy
Olave,
receivers.
Garrett Will. We've just seen it.
The two players I was going to say, where they were great their rookie year, but they weren't like top 12 fantasy options, if that makes sense.
And they were the number one receivers on their team.
Yeah, well, but I guess what I'm getting at is I think JSN can do the things he needs to this year to show going into next year, hey, he's going to make the leap that we expect Olave and Garrett Wilson in year 2.
Like Olave,
that kind of move. Yeah.
That's a better comparison, I think, because Garrett Wilson, back half of the season, he was
good. Yep.
He was top 15, I would say, if I'm not mistaken. Right. But I like that comparison, like the Olave kind of. He showed it that he can be that guy. It's like, will it all come together?
Right.
Alex, interesting kind of news in Minnesota. They signed Myles Gaskin. He had some run in Miami and stuff like that, but they cut who'd they cut? Their rookie Dwayne McBride, right?
No, I don't think it was McBride. It was the other one, I think. I'm going off. I might be butchering.
They didn't cut Chandler, I don't think, did they?
No, Ty Chandler's there.
McBride.
No, they cut McBride. It was the Nagano dude.
Was it McBride? Okay.
Did they cut the rookie?
Yes.
I did
the
not.
The 7th round rookie. That people
McBride. It was McBride. I was mixing them up.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. He's signed to the 53, so he's on the team. Something to keep note of. I don't know if he'll get any run, but just an interesting kind of move for the Vikings after they cut that rookie. And then the love of my life, Justin Ross, is on the Chiefs 53. I'm pounding the table for him this season. Cody, what's your thoughts on Justin Ross making this team, baby?
Here's the thing. I guess there's some upside. I'm just not going to touch Chiefs receivers until they figure it out. I've been burnt too many times by like, it's this guy this year. It's this guy this year.
Yeah.
I'm just going to assume it's nobody until it happens. I'm done investing in these receivers until it happens.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Let me ask you this. I get what you're saying, right? Mm-hmm. Like Mecole Hardman, MVS, Juju last year had Spurs, but but I get but the draft capital to get Justin Ross is last round in redrafts. Dynasty, you can go get him for I mean, a second might be aggressive to go get him.
Where's Sky going? What's his ADP?
That's what I'm saying. I'd rather take
Higher.
a swing at Justin Ross than Sky Moore.
Ah,
Is how I view it. Because you, again, to Cody's point, we've been burned so many times by these receivers. Give me the cheapest who was
hope.
a premier talent in college, coming off an injury, seems to be fully healthy. I mean, that's where my mind goes, is as opposed to Sky Moore, who this is his third or fourth season even being a wide receiver ever. So if he can,
I don't hate that thought. I get what you're saying. Take the low investment, hope it works out. Here's what we have to be careful of, and I know it's the Chiefs offense, but just making the 53-man roster doesn't make you fantasy relevant. So like David Bell also made a fantasy roster, made a 53-man roster. And so I know it's the Chiefs, but I just think the odds of it hitting, I know the investment's low. So
don't overthink it. Don't overthink it.
I agree. But the difference from what you're saying, right? David Bell made it, Justin Ross made it. But let's unpack the wide receiver rooms that they're dealing with, right? Like he's got Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, who they traded for. Third round rookie wide receiver coming in, and Godwin, who's a speedster, who's going to be a gadget play kind of guy. Then you in Kansas City, like who's there? Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, who can't stay on the field.
But like you're comparing
Toney, he's currently their wide receiver 7 on the depth chart. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean,
and you're also like when we talk about David Bell, this is also with an assumption that David Bell is even good. Like he ran a 4.6 40 out of. But what
that's another argument.
Just to be clear, this isn't to hype David Bell. I'm just saying making it an
NFL
roster.
It's the same thing with Justin Ross. Like, don't overthink it. If they're listed 7th on the depth chart, they're the 7th worst wide receiver on the depth chart. That's what it means.
The investment is so low.
Sometimes we got to think outside fantasy and think, what is the coach thinking?
Let me give you this, Robbie. Last pick in redraft, let it fly. I'm not spending a second in Dynasty.
That's all I wanted to hear, Cody.
Yeah.
I just wanted your approval because I've been doing it.
Yeah, no way.
Oh, yeah, he's my swan song this season. Let's get into this trade. Cody, I'm going to let you unpack this, okay?
Okay.
Because this is a lot of people and picks and moving pieces around.
It's a big one.
So I think you do this. You do team 1, I'll do team 2. Alex, you'll do team 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've got an idea here, just because there's so much to unpack here for anybody who's listening and not watching. I think we should just talk additions to the team. So let's talk about what they got, and then who got the assets? Because
how about what if we do this? Let's break it down team by team. So why don't we do team 1, who they're giving up and getting, and we'll dissect that and move on.
So team 1 gave up the big asset. It's Jalen Hurts. That's the biggest product that moved in this trade. Also gave up Laporta, young tight end, obviously, and gave up Roschon Johnson, young running back.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Here's what I'll say for this team. I view giving up Laporta and Johnson as a little bit less than other people do. I know we get so excited for the rookies. I know we're like, hey, this guy could be a thing. Roschon could be the starter. Laporta could be a top 12 tight end. The reality of those things happening based on not just their draft position, but for example, what tight ends, how long they take to mature, and the failure rate of running backs who are just in general. Those two assets to me are worth something in Dynasty, but they're not things you're banking on. They're like, I'm stuffing them on the bottom of my bench and I'm dreaming. And so your big move that you lost here is Hurts, which is a huge one. In return, what did you get? So draft picks is obviously a big piece of it. We've got 2 24 firsts, a 26 first, a 26 third. I don't care about the 26 third, so we got 3 first rounders. And then we added Tannehill, Pickens, Kamara, and Musgrave. So here's where I start going through the math of this, and I can see why this team did this, even though they're losing Hurts. I'm not saying Tannehill's worth much. He's a plug-in starter for this year. I think George Pickens is worth a first rounder. I think Alvin Kamara is worth a second rounder.
Yes.
And I think Musgrave just went for a second rounder, so I got to qualify him as a second rounder. And so ignoring even Tannehill in the third, I'm seeing 4 first rounders and 2 seconds. It's not a bad haul if you're okay with moving the stud. He moved the stud, but I think he got a lot.
Yeah.
It's pieces, though. It's pieces. That's the part that can be tough.
Yes, he did. Right. So this is Mario, by the way. I'm just going to throw it out there because I don't care.
Just go ahead.
This
rip
was
him.
Mario's
He deserves
move.
all of it.
Yeah. And I have said this. We've talked a lot of dynasty and trades and how to go about that kind of stuff. And I've said this a couple times, and I said this to Mario when he was asking me about this trade. Now, if you're okay punting your season, go for it.
Right.
Like because if you're giving up Jalen Hurts, you're probably not going to win. So
I agree.
does that, like, I don't care who you're getting back in return. Like, I have people that you can offer me 5 first-rounders. I'm not trading them because then I'm set back multiple seasons. Like, this sets him back, in my opinion, multiple seasons, unless he has another 2 really, really good QBs, which I don't have his team. I know he's got Joe Burrow,
but I don't know who else. Yeah.
I know he's got Joe Burrow, but I don't know who else. And I don't think he's probably going to be playing Tannehill.
I think he might have Jordan Love and Tannehill, but I could be wrong on that.
I don't think he has
does not
Jordan Love.
He
He
doesn't
has
have Jordan
Tannehill. That's who's
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's for me with trades like this, when you're giving up a premier player like Jalen Hurts, somebody like that, I better be getting back a premier player.
So you don't want the pieces.
Because what's the hit rate? Like, you got Alvin Kamara for a year, maybe. Luke Musgrave, I love him. But what's the hit rate on that? George Pickens should be a really good player, sure. But what's he going to be, a top 24 wide receiver? And then you're getting Tannehill again. He might not be playing next year in the league. So you're giving up Jalen Hurts for a bunch of draft picks, which you can flip and get a player, which I get. Like, if that's his plan, go for it. But again, it's so hard to go get a Jalen Hurts, go get a premier player like that you're going to have to give the same package up, if not more, to go get that player. So it's tough for me. That's all I'm going to say.
I totally get it. Because it is hard to give up the best player. Mm-hmm. I think anytime somebody trades a star quarterback, we're going to struggle to see it no matter what the price tag is. Mm-hmm. Because, we've kind of seen in this league, the going rate, it's a super flex. The going rate for a stud quarterback has been like 4 first.
3 to 4.
This is the 14-teamer, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's 4 first is the going rate. I think he got that in value. And we still don't like it. So I think the price is right, if that makes sense. But he definitely started a rebuild. You're 100% correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'll say...
Tell him that.
I'll say this. I'll say it again too. Like, you can give me a fair trade for that player. That doesn't mean that.
That's a good way to say this. I think it's fair.
You know what I mean? Like, I think he got value. I think the trade for what he's giving up, I think the numbers work out.
Yes.
But I also think there should be like an inflation for giving up a top 5 quarterback for the next 5-6 years. Like, again, he got his value, but
he's banking on my draft, me finishing dead last. Because
I hate to tell you, he thinks that pick's going to be high, Alex.
Yes. The only way this makes sense for him is if I finish last and he has my first round pick and he takes Caleb Williams and he gets Jalen Hurts as replacement. If I don't finish in the bottom 3, then this trade makes 0 sense to me.
But if he does, I'm just saying, even if he gets the first pick, gets Caleb Williams, 1, it's not a guarantee. Just because you get the number 1 quarterback, it's not a guarantee. A. B, how it took Jalen Hurts how many seasons to get as good as he is? 3 seasons? 2 seasons? Like, it's going to be, again, it's multiple years that you're giving away to maybe get a replacement as good as Jalen Hurts.
Right.
That's where it's hard for me.
It doesn't make sense.
Let's hit the next team. Let's hear it.
Yep. Yeah, we should keep moving. All right, so this team gives away a 25 first, a 26 first, Alvin Kamara, and Dalton Kincaid. In return, gets a 26 first back, a 26 second back, Roshan Johnson, Jeff Wilson, and Sam Laporta.
Also doesn't make sense to me.
It's my least favorite piece, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's the worst part of the trade. I forget who it is. Don't hate me, but there's not benefit.
Here's why the person did it. It's Willie. and he has an incredibly young team. He is traded for, I'm going to butcher it, but he has the likes of
his whole team's rookies.
Drake
Yeah.
London,
It is a
Trey
very
Lundberg,
young
all
team.
the guys, all the young guys, all the rookies.
He's
I think he might even
starting
have
Bryce
2
Young
young
and
quarterbacks.
he's starting Bryce Young and Stroud
And
this year.
Stroud. Yep.
That's how young
So
he is.
he's incredibly young. Where the math just doesn't work for me is the 26 firsts are a wash. So you gave a 25 first and Dalton Kincaid, who is a better tight end prospect than Laporta, at least in value, for Roschon Johnson and Jeff Wilson.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Jeff Wilson's value is, I'm going to be honest, near, it's probably a third rounder. Let's be honest, at best, it's a third rounder.
Who is this, Roschon?
And Roschon is.
No, that was Jeff Wilson, was a third.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jeff Wilson is the third rounder. And Roschon's
a second.
He's a second at best, and he might not do shit this year.
So let's even say Kamara and the second are a wash. I think that's probably fair. So the first rounders are wash. Kamara and the second are wash. So we've got 25 first and Kincaid for Roschon and Laporta.
Yeah, but it's a 26. It's a 26 second.
Yeah, 26.
Yeah,
Not
Kamara
even
might
that,
bring a little more than that, I guess. But
Yeah, he'd get a next year second.
It's bad.
In
It's
my
funny. I think Mario thinks Kamara is worth more than a second round right now. I think he's thinking first rounder, which is great.
I don't think he is.
For somebody who is just so laser focused on going young, that's clear what happened here. You know, they just want to get young.
Yeah. Still doesn't make sense. You can get better value.
Yeah. Alex, run through team number 3 for us.
Team number 3 got Jalen Hurts and Kincaid and a 25 first. They let go Pickens, Jeff Wilson, Ryan Tannehill, and Musgrave, and they also traded 2 firsts, 2 24 first, a 26 first, a 26 second, and a 26 third. This team won the trade.
Winner.
Yeah, hands down. You got a first, Kincaid, and Jalen Hurts, and you gave up a few first rounders and a bunch of maybes.
That's 6 first rounders that they got.
Huh?
Yeah.
In my opinion, right? Jalen Hurts, 4 first rounders. Kincaid was a first rounder this year.
Yep.
Yeah,
And they get a 25 first.
And you gave away.
And I like doing the value that way. So let's go through what they gave. So they gave 3 first. Pickens is another one that's 4.
And that's
Muskrat.
still a maybe.
So yeah, I guess. I mean, Pickens is bringing a first in Dynasty right now, though. I think
Probably.
in terms of trading him.
Probably.
Yeah.
You've got a second for Musgrave. You've probably got a second for Tannehill. Maybe a second for Tannehill. You've got a second in the trade. So you've got 4 firsts, 3 seconds is what I see. Somewhere in that range.
Third. He's old and he's bad.
Maybe.
He's not.
I mean,
good.
those things aren't untrue. It's just a starting.
Again,
you might be right.
Inflation rate for getting Jalen Hurts, like he won.
Yeah.
For me, he won the trade.
Team 3 won. Mario's team. It wasn't. It's a fair trade, but it doesn't. It makes sense if you're completely rebuilding, but then like obviously you got to trade Kamara like for that to make sense. Because having him on the team this year doesn't make sense.
And this piece of the trade, this piece of the trade is Keaton. You know what I think was nice here, actually? Obviously, getting Jalen Hurts is the big prize.
Yeah.
How did he walk away with Dalton Kincaid, which might actually be the second most valuable piece of this trade? That's the part that's intriguing to me.
Probably Pickens and Kincaid are the.
It's probably similar. I mean, I think Kincaid went like 107 this year. I mean, that's high value.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like I said, Hurts is the big prize, but I was surprised to see him come away with another huge asset as part of it.
Yeah, I think that 25 first is
that's a steal.
That's a steal. Kincaid, I understand just because there's still another tight end at Buffalo and they don't throw to tight end. So I understand that it's like I value Laporta higher than Kincaid. I don't care about where they were drafted in the draft. It's where the team they're on.
I got in Mario's ear about Luke Musgrave.
Yeah, Musgrave
That's what
to
it
me,
was.
that's a complete hype train based off of nothing. All
right.
It's like looking at Freiermuth, like he's got big arms. He's baby Gronk. Like, all right.
No. Luke's the truth.
He's got a soft dome, and I like Freiermuth.
Yeah,
Luke is the
I like
truth.
Freiermuth, but it's like, don't compare him to Gronk. Let's chill. Yeah, Team 3, congrats, man. Did well.
Congrats. We appreciate you. Interesting trade.
We appreciate you.
Let's keep on moving. We're going to get into the top 12 wide receivers. We're going to go through all 3 of ours. we'll start with me, and then we'll get some questions in and then go to Alex after that. So I'll start this off. Cooper Kupp is my number one.
Spicy from the get-go for me.
Justin Jefferson coming in at number 2, CeeDee Lamb at number 3, Jamar Chase coming in at 4, Tyreek Hill at 5, Stephon Diggs at 6, Amon-Ra St. Brown coming in at 7, A.J. Brown at 8, Garrett Wilson at 9, Jalen Waddle at 10, Chris Olave at 11, and Devontae Adams rounding it out at number 12.
Yeah, I like it. Some of it's pretty straightforward. I think a couple quick takeaways are, Cooper Kupp at 1 and then even Devontae Adams at 12. I think that's going to differ from industry a little bit. But I like it. Looking at it here, who do you think is a guy that you have in the top 5 that you're kind of worried about? You think he could slip out of the top 12?
Yeah, this is funny. So we were talking about this pre-show that we have kind of all these questions for all our lists, and we all put down the same person. Yep. We all put down Cooper Kupp. Tough beat for me because he's my number 1 overall. But it's still, if you look at it, he's coming off the ankle injury. Matthew Stafford question marks after coming off that neck. Is he going to be the same? A. B. Is he going to stay on the field healthy? And if he doesn't, Cooper Kupp takes a massive step back.
Offensive line questions too.
Offensive line questions. This is me banking that Stafford and Kupp will both stay healthy all season. That's the only reason that I can justify me having this. And when they're both healthy, we've seen it time and again that Cooper Kupp's the number 1 wide receiver in the league. I believe they've played 28. This is from Chris Towers when we had him on our guest episodes, which shameless plug. You guys should all go listen to. Those are excellent episodes. But Chris Towers was telling us, I believe they played 28 games together, Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, when they both started and played, I think, 80% of snaps. 20 of the 28 games, he scored a touchdown.
Wow.
The other 8 games that he did not score a touchdown, he still put up over 19 points per game.
Wow, that's amazing.
An insane, that's insane. Yeah. So those numbers alone sold me. That made me, Cooper Kupp, if healthy and Stafford stays healthy, number 1 for me, but the question marks are there. Now we all 3 of us put Cooper Kupp as the candidate that falling out of our top 5 out of the top 12. Pretty much, I think we can all say injury concerns. We all like him.
Yeah.
Now I'll say this. If we're going to say that about Cooper Kupp, I just want to throw this caveat in there because we all had Cooper Kupp. If we're going to say that, I think Tyreek Hill is an interesting person to throw in there because he's another year older. He's in that age range of falling off a little bit. He does most of his damage. Yeah, he's a really good route runner, but speed is his game. It doesn't hold. Father Time takes speed away first. And if, we'll see what happens with that. I still think Tyreek's an unbelievable talent, but Tua's coming off concussion and, multiple concussions. If he gets another one, he could be out for the whole season. Then you're playing with fire. So I think if you want to throw Cooper Kupp in that same, the boat of injury concern for the quarterback and age guardrail sort of stuff, I think Tyreek Hill is an interesting person to throw in there because it's kind of comparable.
To piggyback on that, Rob, we're going to be in an interesting phase here, and both at the wide receiver and running back position where we have a lot of stars who are getting there. If you want to say Tyreek Hill because of age, I think that's fair. But if you just want to, speed. But if you just want to say age, we got Diggs and we got Devontae Adams too. Odds are one of these 4 guys, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. There's a changing of the guards. Within the next 3 seasons,
those guys are all probably
going to be a lot of moving around, and fantasy wise, we haven't had to do it in multiple seasons because we've had the same guys, and until someone like a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase comes and just breaks fantasy for a season, then we can throw them in. But before that, there's no, who the guys are who's going to be really good. But it's coming where these older vet wide receivers are going to start falling off a little bit. That's why I have Devontae. It's partly age, it's partly situation and quarterback play.
I still think his name wrong, but you put him at 12.
Well, did I not capitalize the V? Or
That's
is it
DA, I think.
It's
DA?
DA.
Is it DA?
It's not dead.
Duh, not
Well,
dead.
it's spelled wrong on all three lists. Spelled wrong on all three lists. So that's I just
Ooh.
wanted to throw that caveat in there.
I like this take.
Oh, it's comedy hour. I see.
Alex. Zay's getting a lot of love right now. A lot of love.
Yeah,
I
why
mean,
does
Jordan
Addison,
in
there's
top
gonna-
12? Good one.
Hey, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson are on that list.
But we're not talking about Lamar Jackson throwing the football. That's
We could be. We could
doesn't
be
throw
after
to
the season.
receivers. Yeah,
We'll see.
Yeah, good.
We'll see.
Heard it for 3 years.
Hey, we'll see. I don't hate the call out, but it's not. I'm not writing that check yet, but we'll see.
Yeah. What about kind of looking at the other side of things? Is there a wide receiver outside of this list that you think there's a really good chance that they finish here?
Yeah. My guy that I picked on this was Devonta Smith. He finished top 12 in points per game last season. Jalen Hurts really solidified himself as a very good passer in the NFL. So that should help this team kind of give him more leash throwing the ball, give him more attempts. Up that we know how funneled this offense is between AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. And we also have to kind of I hate bringing up injuries and stuff like that, but AJ Brown's injury history isn't the greatest. So even if he misses a handful of games, Devonta Smith's going to instantly jump up into the top 12 for me. And, you know, I was talking with some Philly analyst for the episode as well. And he said the same thing. He's like, you know, just AJ Brown's history and how lucky Philly was last season with injuries. Something's going to happen.
Tough to bank on again.
You know, you don't want to bank on it, but the odds of him missing at least a few games are probably pretty good.
And I mean, when I said tough to bank on, I meant tough to bank that they have that much injury luck again.
That's the thing, right? Like, they missed Goddard for a handful of games and maybe an offensive lineman 2 or 3 games. Like, that's about it on the offense.
Yeah.
They were extremely
healthy. Hurts missed a little bit of time, but
yeah, he's your wide receiver 18. So I like that as kind of a guy that can move up that half a dozen spots and jump into the top 12. So kind of looking a little bit towards dynasty now. You know, most dynasty leagues are super flex, so we keep that into context here in terms of valuation. But who's a guy that you are trying to go grab before this season because you think they could really help your team for this year? Maybe somebody you're trading like a second rounder for.
Yeah. So second rounder, we were talking that trade before. You don't view, especially this time of the season, that second rounder is not super valued. I would go with somebody like Michael Thomas. It's kind of a target of mine that I would throw a second at. Hopefully you can get him. You know, we know obviously what Michael Thomas is, how good he has been in the past. Obviously he hasn't played in almost 3 seasons, right? Like it's a pretty crazy amount of games that the guy's missed. But a report actually came out today that the issues with his ankle after the surgery and his toe last year and how long it took him to get back healthy, his body was rejecting the appliance the metal that they put into his foot, which I think there's like 1% of the population that rejects that hardware. So he was in that 1%, and his body couldn't heal with that hardware in his foot because it was rejecting it. So all that stuff's out of his foot, seems to be back healthy. Even if you get an 80% Michael Thomas of what he was, that can be the difference to get you into the playoffs and help you win a championship. And if you're only giving up a second rounder for him, I would love to have it.
Yeah, and this is obviously it was as a help now question. You know, Michael Thomas is 30, and with the injury history, this isn't a long play. But I could see a scenario where he becomes, you know, a nice flex for you for this year, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a solid year this year and, you know, some
Maybe
valuable play next year, like I think
Yep.
it's worth a second.
Yeah, I like that. And then looking still at Dynasty, not so much as a play for this year, but more of a long-term play. Who's somebody at the wide receiver position you're trying to buy because you think the breakout's coming? Like, this is your last chance to grab him before he's going to cost you some cash.
For sure. Yeah, dude, I'm going to sound like a super homer, but I don't give a damn. I'm going with Elijah Moore. He's somebody I've been kind of touting this whole offseason. I think he's going to have a really nice season. It's going to be his kind of breakout year. Personally, I think his play style fits perfectly with how Deshaun Watson plays the game, where he extends the play, breaks the pocket, kind of keeps his eyes downfield. Elijah Moore's that kind of quick twitch player that can get open in that kind of scenario. That's why I think he's going to have that season, as opposed to Cooper, where he's more of that route technician that is a timing play. That's why I kind of slid Amari Cooper down my rankings a little bit and moved up Elijah. Now, I also think if Elijah Moore breaks out the way I think he can this season, that's going to open the door for the Browns to let Cooper leave next year and cut $20 million off their cap to help pay for Watson. So if they let Cooper go and Elijah Moore kind of becomes that number one option for Watson, you're going to have to pay a pretty penny to go get him after this year.
That's a lot of praise from a guy who was about to get cut from the Jets.
I don't buy any getting cut from the Jets. I just think there was a lot of ruffled feathers between that whole organization. I think Elijah Moore just didn't want to be there after what was going on. The quarterback carousel that was going on, he showed flashes his rookie year. Obviously, we know what he did that back half of the year. And then Zach Wilson
came
there
in his rookie year. What other receivers were there?
Corey Davis and
I think it was like the same wide receiver group as last year, besides Garrett Wilson.
I think Corey Davis might have played like 4 games that season.
Even if he did, Elijah Moore to me proved that he's a good wide receiver in the league. You know, like he put up numbers.
He put up 500 yards and 5 touchdowns.
And it was all in.
It was in limited games, I think.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
He missed, I think, the first half of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what's interesting there? I think obviously what it hinges on is what happens with Amari Cooper. And, you know, I think Amari Cooper's been great for the Browns. I think they're happy with what he's been, but he's not a young pup anymore. So you just don't know how long it's going to last. I'm not saying it's over for Amari Cooper at all, but I also don't think Amari Cooper is a wide receiver 1 3 years from now, if that makes sense. So whatever that timeline is going to play into, hey, does this kind of play out nice for you?
Yeah, somebody in the Browns wide receiver room is going to emerge as the heir to Amari Cooper. Who's it going to be? Could it be Donovan Peoples-Jones? I don't think so. I don't think he's a good enough route runner and that kind of part of his game. Could it be Tillman, who they drafted this year, who they've been giving a ton of praise to in the offseason? I don't know.
Donovan Peoples-Jones is still there, by the way.
I said Donovan Peoples-Jones. I said that. I said I think he's good, but I don't think he's good enough to be a number 1, in my opinion.
I agree. I think outside of Amari, there isn't a receiver on the roster who could be a number 1.
And maybe that's a good way to say it. It might not be this next season, but at some point in the next couple of years, the Browns will be looking for a wide receiver 1 or looking for somebody to step up.
Elijah Moore. Just like when the Bengals knew that T. Higgins was a wide receiver 1 and they got
Mario. Where you at? Mario?
It's arguable. I mean,
to them it wasn't, because they were like, we can get a better receiver.
Is he a pro? I guess the better way of saying, like, Elijah Moore's not the prototypical wide receiver 1, right? Like Cooper Kupp's not a prototypical wide receiver 1. Amon-Ra St. Brown's not a prototypical wide receiver 1. But can Elijah Moore be something like that? I think he can. I think there's if it doesn't happen this year, then I think it's easy to kind of cut bait because you know what it is after this year. Like if it doesn't pan out, like then you can regroup and
for sure.
And you're not giving up a ton
for him.
Exactly. You're not giving up a ton to go get him this year anyways.
All right, quick hit on the last question here. Alex is selling you Elijah Moore for all the kit and caboodles. Who are you selling?
Who am I selling? I am selling it sucks because he just got hurt, but Terry McLaurin was my pick. You know, prior to the injury, I think you could have gotten a very nice haul for him. I'm thinking like a 25 first or a 24 second and like a David Montgomery sort of package, something along those lines. If you have to throw something else in to make it work. But I love Terry McLaurin, but I think we've seen what he is, and I think he's a top 24 wide receiver without the I don't think he'll ever get into that top 15 to top 12. I just don't see that as a realistic outcome for him.
Even with like a decent QB.
Even with a decent QB, I just don't he's gotten the volume, he's gotten the opportunity. He scores 4 or 5 touchdowns a game or season, which is fine, but it's not getting you into that upper echelon top 12 category. And I also think Jahan Dotson's going to emerge this year as the number 1 there and kind of take the throne over.
Wow.
Man, these bold
I
takes.
just think, yeah, I just believe in him as a receiver. I thought he showed what he can be last year.
Dotson's a little guy, right?
7 touchdowns in 12 games.
Right.
Doesn't play little. So that's all I needed to see. He's the red zone threat there. Terry McLaurin's had all the opportunities every season. He was been the number 1 guy there, and he just hasn't gotten it done. Jahan Dotson was there for half the season and did it. So, in my opinion, and also Sam Howell had he was practicing with Jahan Dotson when they came in as rookies. Like, they're going to have a good rapport going into this season. I think that's going to be his guy. I think that's going to be his guy this year. And if I can ship Terry McLaurin and get a nice package return, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah, I get that.
I still like Terry more than you do. I think the Dotson love's okay. When I look at Terry, the part I disagree with, and it's not a big thing, I don't agree that he's gotten that classic wide receiver 1 work. I know he's the wide receiver 1, but with the QB play and what the offense has done, he's never seen more than I think 130 targets. So we've never seen, and yet he's been 1,000-yard receiver 3 years in a row on what I would call limited targets for wide receiver 1. So I still believe the metrics show that Terry McLaurin's a really, really good NFL receiver. He needs 150 some targets like a star gets, and then those numbers I think are right where they need to be for. I'm not going to say he's a top 5 guy, but to be, that 12 to 15 guy definitely. That being said, I don't know that it's going to happen with Dotson there because I think Dotson is promising. So I get the sell. I still have more McLaurin talent faith than you do, I think, if that makes sense.
What is he, 28 now?
He's 27.
27.
He'll be 28 soon, though, I think. So I think he'll be 28 during the season.
Again, dude, it's just like, I don't know. Can you bank on him turning into a star at 28? You know what I mean? Like
right.
when you got a young, upcoming first-round wide receiver up your ass, like, I don't think so. I think Jahan's going to kind of take that lead, and
I definitely don't see Dotson as the wide receiver 1 this year, actually. But I can see where he can limit T-Mac to where you're like, okay, I'm done with this. So
maybe I shouldn't say number 1 this season, but the changing of the guards in that wide receiver room will happen this year, in my opinion. Maybe by the beginning of next season, it's clear cut. Jahan's the guy.
I don't know. I didn't pay attention. You guys put this up yet, but I think someone is making sure that on all platforms, it's clear that Tyreek is the fastest receiver on the field at all times.
I saw that. I didn't know what was going on, to be honest with you. So
I thought I was just responding, and then it decided to just post on all to, the same size as Tyreek, the size comparison. Like it's.
Oh, that was you. I didn't realize it was you.
That's why I was like, what are you 5'11"? Who cares? You're comparing him to Tyreek.
All right, so, Alex, let's get into your top 12 wide receivers.
All right. Surprise. Justin Jefferson, number 1. CeeDee Lamb 2, Devontae Adams 3, Cooper Kupp 4, Tyreek Hill 5, Jamar Chase 6, Amari Cooper 7, AJ Brown 8, Chris Olave 9, Stephon Diggs 10, Sun God 11, and DK 12.
I love it.
A quick thought here.
Yeah. Love to see.
I thought I liked CD a lot. I think I'm high on CD compared to the industry, or at least with the industry on CD. You two love CD Lamb, both of you. 3 and 2.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, CD's my guy. I think I have him on like 90% of rosters.
He was amazing coming out of college. He's been amazing in the pros. Like, if you're telling, I don't see that much of a difference between him and like Devontae Adams skill wise. They're that good.
CD's a stud.
Yeah.
Alex, we already know your top 5 guy that could fall out of the top 12. Yeah. So let's move on to a wide receiver outside your top 15 that you think could sneak into this top 12 category.
I'll be quick. Garrett Wilson. I like the talent. It's not a question of talent. It's how does this offense look? We don't know. Allen Lazard is there. They have 2 good running backs. I have, Garrett Wilson at 17, I believe. So it's not. I think he's just right outside of that wide receiver 1, but he could finish in the top 5. You never know. This could be a year. The value isn't there for me to draft him there.
You're 100% right that he's going to be there, and Robbie and
Yeah,
I's rankings both
right.
reflect that.
Yeah.
Yes.
He
Yes,
could. To me, it's based off of last year's production, and it's kind of my thing with Elijah Moore, where it's the dude looked good when he was playing with no one. Corey Davis played, I think, 8 games with him. So and it's same thing with Garrett Wilson. The talent's there. He is a wide receiver 1 talent. Aaron Rodgers is, arguably a top 5 quarterback in the league still. But it's a new team. It's a new offense. It's a new line. That is completely new chemistry. It's a lot of new things, and Lazard is there.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
Breaking news. I'm retiring from the Warriors because they suck.
I'll just say this caveat to what you're arguing, Alex, that they can produce when no one's there, right? I've heard that a lot from people, and the only thing I'll say is that was the argument against Amon-Ra last season. That's whenever I brought up Amon, you were with me with Amon, you were high on him as well.
100%.
But that was the only argument people could throw back in someone's face who was high on Amon was, well, he did it with nobody. Nobody was there. He was the only one they could throw to. But in my opinion, if there's no one there, the defense knows that. They're going to double team that guy. And if he can still get open and produce with all that going on, I just think the talent outweighs that. But I get it. I get it, but I think we'll see teams.
I like Garrett Wilson. So it's
Houston, if a player produces there, I think he's good. But because I don't think anyone in that wide receiver room is really good enough to separate themselves as okay, shit, this guy produces a top 15 wide receiver, if that makes sense.
Speaking of that, is there any Texans wide receivers you'd like to talk about?
I sure can.
All right.
So go ahead.
Well, you go ahead, because I can't remember exactly what your thing was. It might have been a buy-in dynasty before he exploded.
I think it is. Yeah. Do you have a wide receiver you're trading a 24-second for in is it Superflex? Yeah, Superflex Dynasty startup.
Oh, you want to go with that one? I thought we were going to segue into.
I went out of order here. No,
let's do that one.
This is your buying him before his breakout. Who you buying before the breakout, Alex?
His name is Nico Collins, Michigan alum. He actually has a quarterback who's going to sling it. What's coming out of camp, and it has
That's the boldest pick of the night.
Oh, for sure. But throughout camp, it's been really consistent that Nico has been Stroud's favorite target. He's been getting red zone. He's been dominant. He's 6'4". He's big body. He moves well. I think he's like a 4.4 guy or low 4.5 guy for being 6'4". That's awesome.
He's a big boy.
Minchie could be, definitely a factor. I don't love this running back room. I don't want any of the running backs on this team. I think they're going to be behind a lot, and they're just going to let Stroud sling it. And I think the most targets go to Nico Collins. And if that happens, I think he's a flex guy.
I just want to add here, Nico, I kind of looked through everybody's rankings to look at their maybe boldest take amongst the wide receivers. And to me, I've got some Nico Collins love, but this is Alex's boldest take. He's got Nico as a fringe wide receiver 2, right around that wide receiver 24 mark. And I don't hate it. If we see this offense take a step forward, I do believe that Nico is that guy. I don't personally think we're going to see this offense take a step forward, but if it happens,
I get it.
I think it's through Nico. I think you're picking the right player if it happens.
The value you can get for him with the possible upside, to me, is 100% worth it. Where he's going in the draft, it's totally worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's been unviable from you to this stage just because you have so much love, but what would you give for him? Is it a second?
Probably.
Okay.
It'd have to be
I think that's right.
I think that's right. Yeah.
I think I would take a second, but to where I'm at right now, I have him in most of my leagues, to where I want to have the pride and be able to celebrate. Like, I picked him. I have him. He's mine. I don't want your picks. I'm going to ride and die with this guy.
Luke Musgrave, baby. Right here. Big Luke.
Sounds like a
Real
straight to tape country.
Almost every.
Before Robbie throws you a question, I want an ADD moment here. That's a fabulous shirt, Alex.
Oh, yeah. My buddy Tyler designed this one.
That's a really, really cool shirt.
But, yeah. Nice
It's
little,
a Patriot. It's a goat wearing a number 12 Patriots jersey.
Yeah.
For the listeners, not the watchers.
I do like it.
Got the 12 jersey over here. And I hate the Patriots.
Didn't he put up a picture of his jersey?
Huh?
I think Tom Brady put a picture up of his jersey after they cut Zappy and all their when they cut.
Yeah.
I think they cut all their quarterbacks, and Tom Brady just like Instagram posted a picture of his number 12 jersey.
Oh, that's funny. I love it.
He would. He's got to get that limelight. But
Right.
What about Alex? What about a wide receiver you're trading a 24-second for before the season starts to help you win now?
It depends. I think on the leagues and everything, because this guy could be kind of a low value first or a high value second, but it's Chris Godwin. It's just the dude performed with Jameis Winston. They're going to throw a lot. The running back room doesn't look great. The team's not going to be very good. They are going to throw a ton. It's one of those things where it's like you can have good fantasy receivers on bad teams. The volume's going to be there. It feels like it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Godwin finds a way because he kind of does it all. He's not like Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans does fine. But Chris Godwin, to me, I think has got the higher ceiling. Just because he kind of does run, underneath more and does run more outs. I think it's worth it 100% this year. I think people are just really too low on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's someone you can get now that, track record shows how good he has been. He's produced and done it time and again where it's not it's a good player to go try to target. Now, I agree with you where I don't know if a second would get it done. It might be a second and like a piece, I don't know, like a low.
It's not going to be a good piece with a second though. Like maybe it's a second and DPJ or something. Like that.
Yeah.
I think something like that.
I think it kind of depends too. Like if you're, how many people are in the league. But yeah, that's what I was saying. It's probably it's a low end first, probably a high end second at best.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a great pick.
Quick thing I'll add there, I actually traded for Chris Godwin in Dynasty just last week. And, one of the things that kind of pushed me there is he feels like he's been around for forever, but he's 27 and he doesn't turn 28 during the season. He doesn't turn 28 until next offseason. He's still a fairly young guy in his prime.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. He's worth it to me dynasty-wise because you're probably getting 4 more years.
That's fair.
4 more years.
And I don't even think in Dynasty you can look that far. If I know I can get 3 years of, non-diminishing skill set, that's full price to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, man. And who are you selling? Who is it that you're like, okay, the price is good right now. I'm not buying the hype. Get me out of here.
Brandon Ayuk. And nobody's on this train with me, but
you hear that, Brian?
I get it. The stats look good for him, and it don't look great for Debo. But when it comes down to it, is majority of that money on that team is going to 3 players, and it's Kittle, C-Mac, and Debo Samuel. They're going to get Debo involved. This year, they're for sure going to get Debo involved. They're going to find ways to get him more involved. Good offenses change a little bit year by year unless you're Pat Mahomes, where it doesn't matter what's thrown at you and you can figure it out. I like Ayuk. I think there's just so much hype because it's been numbers with him. On anybody I've listened to in fantasy football or on ESPN, they just want to focus on the numbers. Like in the games the games with Purdy, all this. I'm like, the numbers are good. I just don't think they're going to translate next year. I think it's such a short, sample size with Purdy to where I'm still taking Debo over Ayuk, but a lot of people like Ayuk to where you can get value out of him right now.
Yeah. No, there's people
lot.
that will pay a lot. Right.
What do you think that price you could get for him right now? Is it a first plus?
I think it's at least a first.
Yeah.
If it's the plus, I don't know how much you're getting with the plus, but it is a first. I don't love it.
Norton agrees.
What does it say? Is this Mario per usual?
I'm sure it's probably Mario.
Picks went with trade. Picks don't matter. I'm not talking about picks. I'm talking about money spent. We're not talking about bad draft and Trey Sermon or the trade for Trey Lance. We're not talking about Kyle Shanahan, just for the world to know, since this has been going on for the past week, Kyle Shanahan is the coach. John Lynch is the general manager. Just so you guys can separate that. I didn't know if you guys knew the difference. Kyle Shanahan does not draft the team. John Lynch does. But what I'm saying is, when you are paying a player for how bad Zeke was last year, he still got a million freaking touches. And he was inefficient. The most inefficient running back in the NFL with 120 touches last year was Zeke. But he got touches because he was getting paid. They're going to run it into the ground because they paid for it. Debo, it's the same thing. They're going to find a way to get – he is versatile. He's their number one. I could be wrong, but if I could sell you for a first round, I'm doing it.
Bold takes. I love it.
I don't hate it.
Cody.
I think I'm super average on Ayuk, so I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I'm like, I can take him. I can leave him.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
The hype right now is high.
It is. And you can find the right
is
person. He's one of those guys, if you find the right buyer, like the people who have him, there's people who have him with a really high ceiling.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cody, your top 12.
Do we want to call this Cody's or like the ECR top 12? Is this like consensus for the world? What should
Did you just copy and paste it from PFF?
Well, I'm just thinking it's probably what should just be used.
Sure.
Yeah. We got Justin Jefferson number 1, Cooper Kupp number 2, Tyreek Hill number 3, Jamar Chase number 4, Devontae Adams number 5, Stephon Diggs 6, CeeDee Lamb at 7, AJ Brown at 8, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God himself, at 9, Garrett, I'm a wide receiver 1. I don't care what Alex says. Wilson at number 10. Jalen Waddle at 11. And Chris Olave at 12, which I just want to say real quick. Chris Olave has been a climber for me over the last couple of weeks. He was sitting at probably 14 or 15 until very recently.
Yeah, I'm high on him.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's been climbing. Olave's been someone that's been like up and down in my rankings all off season. Because I'm starting to get love from Michael Thomas, so I moved him down a little bit. But then I'm like,
it's hard.
They could both have good seasons. But Cody, let's name a wide receiver outside your top 15 that you think can sneak into the top 12.
Yeah, I think this is a boring take and a player that most people aren't excited about. But I think it's Amari Cooper. I know he maybe wasn't quite as good with Deshaun as he was with Jacoby. I know we got Elijah Moore. I know all those things. But I look at the players who have done it last year, which is Amari Cooper, and think, okay, what's the reason he can't run it back? And, his team didn't add a star, I don't think. And I think Deshaun Watson's going to be better this year. And so is there another path for Amari to repeat? Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah, I love that pick. I have him at 13. So like
you're right there. You're higher than me.
Yeah, I couldn't throw him in there. I still think he's gonna have maybe. You do. I had him up at 10, I think. So I dropped him down 3 spots, but he's somebody.
I hate Amari Cooper compared to you guys. Why am I talking about him?
Yeah. No, you're
because he's outside, baby.
Yeah.
Right.
You're preaching. Right. I think he's someone that
made a mistake in your rankings, and now you're like,
I guess so.
So did you with Garrett Wilson. So let's I like all you guys coming back to where they should be. But I love that pick. I think he's gonna have a really nice year, and he's proven it, right? He's proven it. Maybe not top 12 points per game, but he's proven he's a really good receiver, and now he's got hopefully a really good Deshaun Watson this season. So I'm with you, dude. And Cody, if you are in a win now situation for your dynasty league, who are you willing to go get for like a second round pick?
This is probably the take that people are going to dislike the most. It's Hollywood Brown for me. I get it. The QB situation is a mess. I get it. He wasn't that good over the second half of last year. I get it. He, for being as highly picked as he was, he's kind of been an underperformer throughout his career so far. But there's a lot of things to still like about Hollywood Brown. DeAndre Hopkins is gone. You know, what we saw him do before D-Hop came back was amazing. He was wide receiver 5 from weeks 1 through 6. He topped 20 points per game 3 times. So it's not like he had this 40-point week and then the rest was meh. He was fabulous before D-Hop came crawling back. And then, you know, the team's going to feed D-Hop targets, of course. But D-Hop's gone, and Hollywood Brown is only 26 years old. And I don't see a lot of competition for him not to be that same guy as he was in the first 5 weeks. I'm not talking wide receiver 5, but I think this is a guy that you can trade a second round for, that I don't think a top 24 season to where he's your wide receiver 2 or even a great flex is out of the question at all this year. And he's still only 26.
Who's the QB though?
Don't care.
Kyler Murray after week 6. Probably. Unless they're
it's targets.
Right.
And why I say I don't care, I know the QB play is going to be bad. I acknowledge that. It's just the targets.
No, Cody, I'm 100% with you on this. He's somebody that, I guess before they put Kyler on PUP and like
felt better about
brought him into the season on the PUP
Yeah.
list, like he was somebody that I was trying to go get because, like you said, those first 6 weeks he was unbelievable. He's only 26. He's the clear-cut number 1 wide receiver there. And let's be honest, for Dynasty, like even if Kyler doesn't play this year and Hollywood Brown has a not great season, they're either going to have a healthy Kyler next year or have probably a top
Williams
3 pick where they're going to go get a really good quarterback. So I'm in for him.
That's a good Albert question there.
That's interesting, Albert.
I like it a lot less. This take is really just for the Cardinals.
He asked, what if the Cardinals trade Hollywood Brown? They've been trading everybody. Like, would you be surprised? No, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think anywhere he goes is going to be a good situation for him, right? Like,
maybe
more than likely.
This is the reason I'm so excited is I'm not projecting this, but if we got to the end of the year and Hollywood Brown had 135 targets, it doesn't shock me a bit. I don't know that there's a lot of teams he could be traded to where I would say that's a possibility. But maybe I'm off on that. Depends what you think of Judy. I mean, I think he becomes a wide receiver too.
Dude, they said he's gonna be out 8 weeks.
Yeah,
8 weeks. I hadn't heard that.
I heard 6 to 8.
Adam Schefter brought up
6 to 8.
something about it, but
Hollywood Brown's really unloved, and in Dynasty in particular, I think he's viable
because he's okay. He's like a poor man's
okay. You're right.
Cooks. He's
that's actually great. Cooks. I love that take.
Like it's like I don't know.
I'd easily give a second round. I mean, I would if I could get Hollywood Brown for a second, I would do it in a heartbeat.
I don't hate that. I don't hate getting Hollywood Brown for a second. I mean,
but here's the thing. I think we're alone in feeling this, Robbie, and I won't lump you in, Alex, because I know you're kind of taking the other side. I don't even know exactly what his ECR is, but it's low. Like, people are not in on Hollywood for this year.
Yeah. It's also changed. It's it's changing just because of what's going on with Kyler and how they sold half their team recently for nothing. Like, they're just trying to get rid of half their squad. Now it's going to be Josh Dobbs throwing him the ball.
Right.
It's just a weird situation, and it seems like they're just going to tank. Yeah, they're just going to tank this season to try to get Caleb Williams, which, again, makes a lot of sense if you're the Cardinals because you're probably not playing for anything this year. So you might as well
31.
suck. Yeah.
Which is okay.
It's fair.
Yeah. That's always nice. That contract year does always help.
Yeah. And again, like if he gets traded, for me, Cody, like if he gets traded somewhere, he's going to a situation that's going to have a good quarterback. I don't think there's any way a team with that.
What if it's like the Titans?
Oh, hate it.
I don't see them making that move. They got Treylon, they got D-Hop.
But Treylon, we haven't seen really anything, and he's injured. D-Hop,
it's the same D-Hop problem
he's
last
back.
year. But...
D-Hop is old.
Treylon Burks is back.
Yeah, but it's still Traylon's still a big, who knows? It is complete hypothetical with him.
I don't know if they'd go trade for a wide receiver after going to get D-Hop. But again, like if they did,
They're
that
trying
would
to
suck.
win.
That would suck. I mean, if he went to the Titans,
Oh, it'd be
obviously,
terrible.
That's
It'd be
trash.
absolutely terrible.
But for the most part, like if you're looking at it, it's probably if the Rams get off to a hot start, they would trade for him. Like you said, Denver.
Or maybe the Broncos, right?
Yeah, Denver might trade for him, or the probably not the Cowboys because they got Brandon Cooks.
They couldn't afford his contract, I don't think either.
I'm trying to think. Somebody with a really good number one that needs a really good number two with
Detroit
a good
Lions.
You know which one I like? I just thought of one I like.
Detroit makes a lot of
And
sense.
Alex is gonna
Pats.
like it. Pats.
I would take him.
Yeah, I think that's a nice fit.
Yeah, I think anywhere he goes, he's either going to be the
Anybody's
clear cut
better
number
than what we
one.
have.
He'll be the clear cut number one or number two in an offense that's going to be pass heavy with a really good quarterback. So I like that pick.
Yeah.
And then, Cody, do you have a guy you're going to trade for this, like right now, before he has a monster year? Like you're projecting him to break out this year, and you want to get him before the price tag's too high.
Can I give you a 2-for-1 special?
Of
But
course
two
you
different
can.
questions. Answer two questions at once. It's gonna be like
Sure.
the old discount
Throwing a lot of caveats.
double. What's it called? Discount double.
The double check.
Double check. Is that what it is? Discount.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to focus on the Steelers for both the player I'm buying in Dynasty and the player I'm selling in Dynasty. I'm buying George Pickens.
Okay.
George Pickens, I've already talked this quite a bit. He is a human highlight reel for me. I understand some of the limitations we think this quarterback play might have and the offense might have in general, but I think Kenny Pickett could take a step forward. I know he was not great last year. I know he struggled in a lot of ways, but I think you saw things from Kenny Pickett that translate to wide receiver success. I think a quarterback can support good wide receiver play without being a good NFL quarterback, if that makes some sense. And I think Kenny Pickett showed the ability to push the ball down the field and get it in the place to where George Pickens can make these acrobatic catches, just like we saw in the last preseason game. That sideline catch was an absolute beauty. And I think on the flip side of that, the player I'm looking to sell is Deontay Johnson. I think there's still a lot of Deontay Johnson love. I know he's been a target monster, seen 140, 145, 148. I forget the number, like 3 years in a row. But what we have here is an offense that has Najee going to catch passes. We've got Pat who's going to do his thing. And I think I think that Pickens is going to take a step forward. And so it's going to leave to me a guy like Deontay not hitting his target mark. Not saying Deontay is going to be a nobody. Not saying he only catches 60 passes or 58 passes. I just think 130 targets is in the realm of possibilities for Deontay this year. And the lack of productivity he's had per target throughout his career and across the board, we're talking from a yardage perspective, from a catch rate perspective, all of those things, it hasn't been hyper productive. He's just been flooded with targets. If he doesn't get those targets, it's ugly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is a trade you can make with everybody, but I think you can still to this day, if you find the right situation, if you've got Deontay, I'm not sure you couldn't just flip him for Pickens and give me Pickens if you're letting me choose out of those two in Dynasty.
Know.
You don't think you could get Pickens for Deontay?
The Pickens hype train has been rolling, man.
Yeah,
I've been talking him too much here. I'm getting too excited.
I think Pickens is one of those players. If you have him, it's going to be tough to give him up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I'm struggling to buy him. I'm struggling.
It's one of those pieces that like the trade might be equal, like Pickens for Deontay. But if you have Pickens, it's like I'm not doing that.
Yeah, like Deontay's been pretty consistently higher in rankings, but you've got the age differential. So in Dynasty, you might be right. But if I can even get some semblance of that with a kicker on there, give me Pickens in Dynasty, man. Yeah. I'll do that swap.
For sure.
I like that.
Yeah, I like Pickens.
Yeah, so you're viewing Pittsburgh's wide receiver room like I'm viewing Washington's.
Yeah,
very similar.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I would trade. I mean, if I could trade Terry McLaurin for Jahan and something, like I think I could get Jahan in a piece for Terry McLaurin. I would do that.
I think you could too.
Yeah, I would do that.
It's a small piece.
Yeah, but nothing like a second or a third.
Ooh, probably not that much.
Yeah, not a second. Probably not.
Something.
But even if
And
it's Jahan and what's somebody that's worth a third, but not a third rounder, let's say it's a player. Let's say it's
like a Pierre Strong or a
easily. You could easily get Pierre
well, now that
Strong
he's
in.
traded.
Yeah, I would
I
say
don't think you could.
Yeah. I mean, what before when he was on there?
you'd for sure get Pierre Strong with that. I mean, that's.
I was gonna say like Antonio Gibson, but we just keep bashing the Commanders here.
We do.
That might be tough too.
Maybe you should
But
just
I
trade
get what
away
you're
all the
saying.
Commanders players for like
Yeah.
a third.
And-
Like
yeah.
bundle them all together and be like, hey, will somebody give me a third?
It's a big. They're such a huge. Who knows? I mean, Dotson could be, but I don't know, man. Terry McLaurin's never had a guy who actually knew how to throw the ball to him in the red zone. So
It's fair. I get it's fair, dude. But I don't know, man. I just think he's had enough opportunities. I don't know. I'm just not sold on the talent, to be honest with you, at this point
that's
in his
crazy.
career.
That's the first time I've heard you talk negatively about a Ohio State player.
I think he's a really good NFL wide receiver. I just think he's overvalued in fantasy football. Like I just don't think he'll
And really
produce
dynasty
those.
specifically, probably.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to produce at top 15 wide receiver numbers where he's kind of projected.
What was he last year? Like 15.
I think he finished like
he
15
was-
points per
I think he
15
finished
points per
15.
game maybe, but he was
I
like
thought he was
wide
lower than
receiver
that. I was thinking he was like low 20s, but maybe
20,
I'm wrong with that.
21st
Maybe.
or something.
Maybe something like that. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think he was like 21st, and that was his best season of his career. Like
Least
Barely.
targets,
You just don't see
least
him.
targets of his career, though, I believe.
That's what
which
I'm
was
saying.
interesting.
The
He
least
was
amount of
actually really
targets he had
good.
last year.
Yeah.
He was more efficient last year than
Yep.
he was.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm kind of like, if he does get closer to the 140 targets,
Which is
we're
a
not-
big ask, I'll admit. But because I
but
agree
it
with what
really
you're saying, Alex.
that's
but it's a big ask.
I don't think it's a huge ask for him to get 20 more targets this season.
Only because of
Really
Dotson. That's my
Dotson was there last year,
Yeah.
so that's why I don't see.
who's he talking about? Who's
It's
the
gotta
same
be you,
player?
right?
What if
Who's the same wide receiver?
they're the same one? I don't know.
DJ Moore and who?
I don't know. Mario's
Terry?
on drugs.
I think he's drinking.
Yeah.
Marius-
He's
all-
He
Marius
started talking
sleeping.
about the wide
He's all
receiver
fired
one
up.
he used to. I don't
Sipping
know.
talks
Uncle
about his
Ben's
trade.
syrup a little too early, you know what I mean?
He just talks about. I don't know. He has to be drinking, just like when he made that trade. He loves making huge,
Oh, man.
ginormous trade just to be on the edge of rebuilding and maybe playing for the season. It never makes
DJ
sense.
Moore and Terry McLaurin.
Sure.
I don't think so.
I don't. I
don't think
I'm
so.
not. I don't think they're much different. I
He
really
just wants to
don't.
get me hyped on DJ Moore
I
again,
think
but
He
we
does.
are
He
running
ain't got time
late.
for this. Yep.
We've already put our time in tonight, boys.
McLaurin's
This
going
is
to
a
quarterback
fun
that
one.
throws more.
This was a
This
fun
was a lot
one.
of fun.
Yeah.
You got any other wide receivers you guys have
Keep
love
an
for
eye
before
out.
we go?
Sky Moore. Sky Moore.
Sky Moore for Alex, Cody.
Sky Moore.
I don't think I know off the top of my head. I think I'm struggling. Who's somebody I've been buying a lot of? I'm going to give a second hit to Chris Godwin. I think he's undervalued this year.
Love it. And I guess who have I been buying is DJ Moore. Like I've
There
tried to
it is.
scoop
He
him up
got
as
it.
much as I
He
can.
got
We
him.
know.
He's the guy.
We know.
Him and Justin Ross, everybody. I'm Rob, Alex, Cody. This has been a fun one. We appreciate you. Peace.
Hasta luego.
See ya.
Thank you for watching our episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
If you aren't already following us on Twitter, check us out at Dad Bod FS.
We'll be posting all of our best clips and videos to all of our social media: TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. You can find us on there at Dad Bod Fantasy Squad.
Lastly, if you'd rather just listen, we make sure we post our audio of each episode on all the major streaming platforms. Stick with us all season long so together we can count our trophies